right, well, I think we know most of you guys, but for those of you who are new faces, I'm Walker Balan. I'm a fourth year Lakeland College student working on my degree in agriculture technology, um, doing Bison research for my practical.
My name is Wylee Squair. I'm also a practical student like Walker, and this is the project that I'm working on for my practicum. So we're doing drone imaging, applied to bison farming, data gathering for decision making, and how drones can be utilized in the bison industry. So this project is done in collaboration with John Church from Thompson Rivers University, Jason Galbraith from Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, and then the PI for this project is Yuri Montanoli from Lakeland College. So outline for our presentation, a brief introduction as to what bison are and what bison production looks like, our hypothesis, how drones can be utilized in the industry, specific applications for drones, conclusion and implications, and then acknowledgements. So an introduction to bison. I'm sure most of you in this room have a pretty good idea of what a bison are. So bison are the largest land mammal native to North America. There's two different species. There's a woods bison and a plains bison. They're a large animal with females weighing upwards of 1,000 pounds and males weighing upwards of 2,000 pounds. They're undomesticated and quite easily stressed. And they're quite agile and athletic for as large of an animal as they are. So bison production takes two different forms. It starts at the cow-calf production system where the calves are born and then raised until they're ready to be weaned off of the cow. From there, they'll go to a feedlot production system where they're finished out until they're ready for harvest. So some practices that are fairly common in the cow-calf production system is because they're undomesticated and high stress, most producers take a very hands-off approach. So there's very minimal interaction with the animal. And because of that, it looks a lot different than bovine production practices where you're able to tag the calf and vaccinate it and identify which cow has produced a calf. Those are all things that are difficult or impossible to do on a bison operation. With a feedlot production system, it's kind of the same idea. It's a hands-off approach. And then the feeding system just depends on the operation. Some are free choice. They feed out there all the time, so you don't have to interact with the animals as much or disrupt them. And then some is a TMR where they're fed every day. So some of the challenges that exist in a cow-calf production system is obviously in the inventory. If you're using hands-off approach, it's hard to determine how many cows you have out on pasture, how many cows have calved, and how many calves you have. And then as well as identifying specifically which cows have produced a calf and identifying illness among others. So overall that leads to a lack of data and a lack of info regarding herd behaviors. Same idea with the feedlot. Identifying illness can be a challenge because they are a very tough animal and they're good at hiding symptoms. So quite often it's hard to notice if one is sick until it's almost too late. Identifying the hierarchy within the pens, which ones are more dominant or less dominant, and then as well as assessing herd inventory, how many animals are in each pen.
So getting into the drone usage, which I guess this is a drone conference, so that's why we're here today. Drones have been used in livestock production in many ways. Here's some articles kind of detailing some of that up there. As we've seen in the previous presentation, you can use them to herd sheep or other livestock. And then just monitoring remotely. With that, we'll go into a little bit of work done by some of our colleagues here at Lakeland College where they're locating herds and they're identifying animals. So in this picture here, you can see they're looking at the herd, and then in this picture, they can actually identify this is one of the animals they have a series ear tag on.
And that's how good the magnification is on a lot of these drone cameras. These are both the same image, and that's how far you can zoom in, and that's how good the resolution is.
Moving forward, we can also look at reproduction behaviors. So here you can see a bull following this one, and down in this corner, you can see a bull attempting a breeding. And finally, you can see here a bull attempting a breeding. This bull flips him over, maybe that's why that bull comes up sore that week. You can see stuff like that, give you a little more idea of what's going on inside your herd. So our hypothesis with the bison industry is we can use drones to monitor animals and assist in a hands-off approach to monitoring them and collecting the data. This will enhance the management practices without physically disturbing the animal or inflicting stress upon them.
So we identified 6 objectives for our project. The first of which was is herd inventory. We'll analyze aerial footage to assess and record inventory to determine how many animals are in a pen, whether it's a pen or a pasture. Cow-calf pairing to identify which individual animals have produced a calf. Health monitoring, we can use the thermal and the visual camera, oh boy, to detect signs of illness or injury. Behaviors, we can look at individual animal behaviors that you wouldn't see on a day-to-day basis. Feed bunk behavior, we can, like I said, we can look at the hierarchy within a pen and see which ones are more dominant or less dominant, or which ones are getting pushed off of feed, and management decisions can be made with that kind of information, whether or not you want to sort animals off into a different pen. We can look at animal handling systems in the air and see how that influences the stress response in the bison. We can compare different systems.
So applications. So for this drone work, me and Wylee used the DJI Matrice 300 drone. It had RTK capabilities, all that stuff. It has an interchangeable payload capacity, so we can switch different cameras onto it. And we get about 40 minutes of flight time. I would say the winter dropped a little less with the cold, but that's what we were getting in the summertime. And then the camera we use is a DJI Zenmuse H20T. It has thermal and visual capabilities. So the really cool thing about that, if we take a visual picture, we get the thermal picture too. It takes 3 pictures in one. It takes a zoomed in one, a wide one, what the camera sees without zoom. And it has up to 8x magnification on the thermal camera and 200 on the visual camera. So we can zoom in pretty close. So our flights, we just performed regular flights throughout the summertime going to the bison herd, looking at them, especially when they're doing inventory and cow-calf pairing stuff. The feed bunk behavior, we try to go out there. We've been focusing on 1 pen of heifers, and we just go out there when he puts out fresh feed and kind of determine some of the stuff we want to see there.
So one of the methods that we use to determine herd inventory is just manual counting. This worked good when the entire herd didn't fit into one frame. We could kind of just sweep over them with the drone and count how many animals there were, and we could identify between cows and calves and get a separate count for each. Here's a video in one of the feedlot pens, same idea. You can sweep across the pen and count individual animals and get a total. One of the other methods that we used was a counting system or software. This one is called Count Things, and you just upload a single picture to the app and it'll tell you how many animals are in the picture. We had some moderate success with this app. Some of the limitations were sometimes the bison would blend in with the background and you miss them. And it also was not able to differentiate between a cow and a calf. So you wouldn't get a separate count for each, you just get a total count for everything. The other system or program that we used is ImageJ. This is an open source, free to use platform. And we had the most success using thermal images with this, where there's a greater contrast between the bison and the background. So we could upload an image, we could subtract the background, and then we'd get an outline of the shapes that were left. We'd get a count of the shapes, and then depending on the size of the shape, we could differentiate between a cow and a calf and get a separate count for each. Cow-calf pairing, we could zoom in with the drone from a ways away, and we were able to read the dangle tag on the cow. Like Marcus was saying, he showed you some examples as well. So we'd identify the cow, and then I identify whether or not she is a calf outside, and we could mark her down in our record book or Excel sheet or whatever you use. Here's some sample images of cow-calf pairs, and we actually found that they were paired up pretty good. We didn't have a hard time at all determining which ones had a calf and which ones didn't.
So looking at some health monitoring, I think this is a really cool thing, both in the bison and the beef industry, if you could use cameras to see if you have a sick animal. So we would scan the individual animals with the visual and the thermal camera simultaneously, and then we can notice abnormalities related to their health and well-being. This has been done before on dairy cattle, and then there's actually one on bison that we found when looking at some literature. This is one of the videos we found here. You can see down in this flank when the video plays, she has an open wound or something, whether she got horned or gored by another animal. You can see she's got something, and then maybe you get her tag number right here. You can see she's 784. You can go back next time. You can see if she's doing okay. Maybe she has an infection or something. As well as, this is a really cool story from last week when we were out in the McAllister feedlot. We come across this bull and he's just sitting there on his knees, like he's not going anywhere. We're like, well, that's kind of weird. So we come up and we kind of focus on him, and you can see, I don't know if the video will play or not, but he's limping. He's really sore on his one front right foot. So when we zoom in with the thermal camera, we can see that that front right foot has a lot more heat in it than the other 4 feet. And yeah, so maybe that's obviously where the pain or the inflammation is down there. Kind of cool that we could see that. And then we also can look at behaviors, just look at some unique animal behaviors. The first time me and Wylee went out to a bison herd, all the cows kind of come up and they're all like looking like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to take my baby or whatnot? Whereas when we're up in the drone, we catch them just acting natural and doing what they do. So here's a video of a bull drinking some nice clean water. You can catch them grazing or eating at the feed bunk in a feedlot scenario. Just laying down and ruminating in the afternoon, you know, enjoying the sunny day. You can see them fighting. This was a pair of bulls, and then this is a pair of a pair of cows actually in the Lakeland College herd. Just yesterday we took that video. So you can see them pawing, rolling. Oh, nice mom and her calf there. I guess that's how they learn. Grooming on a tree. You can see they're kind of hard on trees actually. And then you can look at some reproductive behaviors. This bull here, he's using the flavin response to see if this cow's in heat. I don't know why it didn't play, but here's a maternal behavior. You can see which calves are sucking. That really was useful for pairing cows and calves, determining which cows have calves. As well as probably my favorite video. We took this mom stopping up on our calf nice and quick. Yeah, I think it's cute.
So we could also look at bunk behavior using the drone. During feeding or when fresh feed was put out, we could record the bison and how they interact with each other in the feed. We would identify them by their dangle tag number, and then we could identify which ones were more dominant or less dominant. I think there's a video here of feed bunk behavior somewhere, if I can get it. There you can see one getting pushed off the feed here. He tries to come back, but gets pushed off again. Handling system functionality, so we can record the bison going through the handling system, how they react to different components of the handling system and their flight speed, exiting the chute, and we can compare different handling systems and kind of get an idea of what works and what maybe doesn't work so good. Here's some bison getting unloaded.
So then looking at some of the challenges that we faced, where we could see drones going forward to further benefit us doing these kind of uses on bison. Sometimes it was hard to capture the entire herd in one picture or video. Trees and bush could block your sight. Right now there's regulations, we can't fly. We can only fly so high. So if we could fly higher, maybe it'd be easier to get them all within the same picture.
Yeah, and beyond visual line of sight is also difficult out in a pasture with trees or something.
The herd inventory, really basic, just hard to read tags and faded numbers, dirt coverage, whether the hair is covering them or if they have no tags at all. That's not really a drone problem, but maybe one day the camera could be so good it could read past all that dirt and hair, but I doubt it. The thermal monitoring, the camera actually has a low magnification and resolution, so out in the pasture, it was hard to get those really up close videos compared to those videos I showed you of that bull that was really sore. He was in a feedlot, he's really old, and of course, we saw he wasn't gonna move very fast. So I could get a little closer to him and get a good video. And then behavior, sometimes they'd notice us and they'd stop and stare at us, but that was pretty rare. And we really wanted to catch them in their mystical, magical moments, but we never did. We want to one day get a video of Bison doing the whatever they do. And then just looking at something like, if we were to have a dream drone to do this work, what would it be? So we want it to be small and quiet, of course, so they're not getting stressed out or looking at us, they're just doing what they do. Autonomous capabilities would be really cool if it could just fly out and find the herd by itself, maybe even detect a sick animal on its own, and kind of record that data. Ultra high frequency ear tag scanners would be really cool. Right now, it's all low frequency, so you have to be within a certain range of the animal to get it. But maybe if you could fly over the entire herd, it goes beep, 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 scans all their tags, and then you get a full list of what animals are out there. That'd be really cool, but we would also want it to be able to target singular animals, whether that's point a laser beam at or however that works. And then artificial intelligence for counting and matching up pairs, detecting illness, and monitoring grazing patterns.
So in conclusion, we believe that drones can provide bison operations with vital data that is difficult or even impossible to obtain sometimes due to the undomesticated or the wild nature of bison. And this is data that is going to be useful or can be implemented in every aspect of bison production, from cow-calf production to feedlot, all the way through the process chain to distribution. So the implications of this is bison producers can utilize drone imaging to enhance the sustainability of their operation, their production, their efficiency, which at the end of the day will equate to greater profit margins. So some of our acknowledgements, we'd like to thank Alberta Innovates and Lakeland College, among others, and some of the collaborators and funders for our project.
Thanks.